Good morning from Kalmar! It is just after 7 a.m. in the lovely town of Kalmar, Sweden. Waking my butt up to the lovely boats. As my phone annoyingly goes off because Lene is texting me from the other room because I let her know the grandparents are up and already on their way to breakfast. Slept like a rock last night, that was pretty nice. But yeah, and people are already up and swimming. Too cold for me. But it's time for us to head down to breakfast, and then we wander off to Öland. Also, I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of these words right. I've been trying to learn Swedish on Duolingo. It's gonna be sad for a couple years. I have not made as much progress as I want. Also, Duolingo is not exactly very accurate or very good pronunciations. I'm learning that. It's been great. But it's actually been kind of nice being here, surrounded by it. It actually has been helping me realize I actually have retained a little bit more than I thought, like reading things. Like I can't pull it out of my brain on the fly to write things down or speak it, but if I hear it and I read it, the brain will allow it then. So that's kind of nice. But I'm hungry. Breakfast, Öland. We made it to Trollskogen, aka Troll Forest. It is a nature preserve that is on the most northern tip of Öland. Öland is Sweden's second largest island. You have to cross Sweden's largest bridge to get over here. But they have a forest up here. It's called Trollskogen because the wind-swept pines that are all gnarled look really cool. Like I said earlier, Sweden's really big about their troll and giant folklore, so the forest has helped with that. It's all twisted, and this is just the beginning. They have a nature preserve out here that you can come and enjoy. Some really cool species. There are 19 different species of bats in Sweden. About 80% of Sweden's different species actually can be found on Öland.
What charge are you supposed to take?
What, Grandpa?
She said nothing taken.
Yeah, you can't take anything, so just don't.
I'm not.
Alright.
I'm just using it.
They're really big on leave no trace. You take nothing, you leave nothing. Don't do it. But,
And what I'll do is when I get to where I'm
it's
done,
so
I'll
beautiful
put it
out
back
here. He found a walking stick. He's gonna borrow it for the trail. It smells so nice. And the trees and the forest are just so beautiful. Along with a bunch of wind-swept pines, there's a lot of ivy that will grow up the trees. So there'll be ivy just wrapped around the trunks of some of these things. Looks so cool.
Well, I heard an owl.
It could be. They have tawny owls out here as well. Those are cute little suckers. They're subspecies of the tawny frogmouth, I would imagine. So I imagine they look pretty cute. Along the edge of the, oh, that's a cool beetle. Along the edge of the forest, there is an old wall made of stones. In the 16th century is when it was made. It was called the hunting wall because it divided where one territory ended and the other one began, so you knew where you could and couldn't hunt, basically. But they created one, and walking past it actually right now, it's pretty nifty. It obviously was stone, it's not really a wall anymore, but... This forest is so beautiful. I would love to go camping up here. Break out of the forest, it's actually warmer on the beach. I'm curious, how cold is the water? We're gonna find out, because I wanna know. Ooh. A little chilly. Not as cold as I thought it would be, though. But this is the Baltic Sea. Thought it would be colder. Actually, not too bad. Like I said earlier, the Norwegian country is really big for their trolls and mountain trolls and giant folklore. Well, this forest is called Troll Forest because of all the gnarled trees, so, you know, if it was nighttime or evening time, you couldn't really see very well. The gnarled trees would look like creatures, and thus the rumors and the stories began. And that's why it's called Trollskogen. It's just, it's beautiful out here. Plus, I just really like folklore. We're heading back to the car. Now, granted, I didn't get to go as far into the nature preserve as I would have liked to go see the really gnarled trees that I saw pictures of, but I'm also trying not to completely run my grandparents ragged, not to mention, again, I move at a much faster pace. I'm recalculating some stops. More important to the grandparents is seeing some of the ruins. So we're going back to the car. I'll just come back at a different trip, an excuse to come back, maybe a backpack through Sweden, yeah, I'll come see it then. But now we're gonna head back to the preserve, get in the car, and there's some Viking village ruins to go see, some old ruins of a church. Oh, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. It's really cool because obviously back in the day they didn't have cars. I'm probably gonna say it wrong. Böda Skogsjärnväg. Basically the Böda Forest Railway. Apparently they do still kind of use it at times, but they got some tracks. It's really cool. So apparently there are some trains that actually take you through different parts of Böda, the island area. That's more of a summer thing, I think, or a fall thing. We're outside of tourist season. Oh well, maybe I'll come back. Science is close. So, a big thing of Öland is all the old school windmills. They were pump houses to pull up water. They're all over, the little ones all over the place, but there's one big one that's kind of upper. It's below Trollskogen, but it's like right off the road. You can see it. It's really cool. So we've stopped I had to get gas, which, by the way, if you ever get gas here, in order to get your receipt, so you put the card in to activate it, and you pump the gas. To get your receipt, you put the card back in again, and then it will give you the receipt. It's interesting. Yeah. So just a note. Put the card back in again to pull it back out to get a receipt. So we've stopped to get some snacks and see the windmill. Plus we might check out the flea market. But check this out.
Jag vandrar bredvid dig genom mina levnadsdag. Den är skogslust vi har, en glädje hålla kvar. Får jag tillsammans med dig spela denna sång, så ska jag för evigt glader vara.
So prior to the invention of the refrigerator, when you wanted to keep your vegetables cooler to keep them lost longer, they would dig into the ground, because it's colder down there, and they'd make little root cellars down to the ground. We're here at the flea market in the windmill. There's actually a little old one that's still pretty good condition, just chilling. I don't know how old it is, but it's still cool. We've eaten our lunch, we've seen the windmill, we've gone to the flea market, and now it is time for us to go to the next destination. Yes, yes. Alright, next stop on the tour is I don't know if I'm saying it right, I apologize if I'm not, Gamla Kyrka? It's the Källa Old Church. It's from the medieval times. They've restored it back in the 1800s and also the 1700s, but it's still standing. The new church of Källa is somewhere else, but there are still apparently some medieval paintings in this one. So, some more history.
There's three more graves over here.
There's also gravestones right by the parking lot. So if you come here, be respectful. So the gravestones have numbers on them, not names, when they're older. And there were books that you could go to the church, and you had to know the specific number to find it. So you go to the church, they had books, and the number then would tell you who was where. So if you could tell them the number, then they should be able to tell you where it was. That was how they used to track the graves in the past before they put names on them. So these ones are old enough, from the 18th century, maybe older. I don't know. I don't know the number system when it started. I'll look into that. But these don't have names on them. They are numbered. So, it's kind of cool. Interesting. We found some more information on the Kyrka, Gamla Kyrka. So the original church that was on this grant was wooden, and that was built in the 11th century at the very beginning of the islanders converting to Christianity. Before that, they were pagan. And then the stone construction was built over the wooden one in the 12th century. So it's been here. Apparently it's one of the best preserved medieval churches in Sweden, because it actually still has its own walls, and a good chunk of it's all original from the 11th century. Some of the roof apparently has been replaced, but yeah, it's pretty neat. So inside the grounds of the church, there are actually graves from the medieval ages. The erosion has worn off the markings that were on the grave covers, but the fact that the medieval ages are still here, I mean, that's pretty cool. Morbid, I guess, but cool. So, unfortunately, we can't go inside. We are off season of the normal tourist season. The church is locked up, which means sadly we won't be able to see if we can see the medieval paintings inside still. But I still gotta say, being able to see medieval graveyard with the stones still at the slabs there and the building still standing, even if you can't go inside, that's still pretty awesome. And I can see in the window. Look, there's more graves inside. There's a lot of humidity here. Finally had to cave and put the hat on. But our next stop in Öland is the Borgholm Castle. We have entered the castle. Random fact, obviously the Danes and the Christians went back and forth with stealing things from each other. But it was in 1523 to 1560 that I guess the soldiers from Gustav Vasa captured this back from the Danes. It's pretty cool. We have found the old kitchen of the castle. They had quite a pretty view of the town below for the royalty, because the castle was up on top, and they could oversee what, well, now it's actually like villages and towns, but it's where they used to have the, I don't remember the word, their villages. Now, if you come to Borgholm Castle, there is an admittance fee, but inside of the castle, there's actually a museum. You can wander the first floor, second floor, and the third floor, and there's a museum with artifacts that they've excavated, history galore. There's even a love story because the castle for a little while, I can't remember their names. Cool fact for the women. One of Borgholm's rulers in the 14th century was a woman. She was the Norwegian king's daughter, Ingeborg Eriksdotter. Erik's daughter is daughter of Erik. Widow of the Swedish Duke Valdemir. The husband was surprised and imprisoned by the brother. But there was a coup in 1317, one of the most notorious coups in the Swedish history. Valdemar passed away in captivity the next year, and then Ingeborg inherited Öland. So for a good chunk of time, for almost 40 years, you had a female Norwegian ruler ruling here. That's pretty cool. Not a lot of queens got to rule in Europe, but she did for 40 years. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say a lot of queens. I mean, look at England. It happened. For a good chunk of time in the early medieval ages, they had issues with pirates on the Baltic Sea. That's actually part of why this castle was built. It originally started with just a really tall tower, but that one tower gave them the ability to see out over the waters, and it could keep them watch. They knew if pirates were coming or going. Because of that, that is why they actually decided to build the castle here, so that it could protect their lands and keep watch from the pirates. It all took pirates to start it off. I guess pirates would probably be Danes. Neat part about the castle is you can actually go to the second story and even the third floor, and you can see the view. They legit had a view over the entire island. Well, just maybe you couldn't see the other side. It's a small but still a big island. But they would go and they would guard, keeping a watchful eye over their land. It's pretty impressive. I gotta admit, the fact that a good chunk of the second floor actually still is awesome, but they even have a small portion of the third floor, so the floor is still here. They've been restored and stuff to make sure it can last, but this is the view from the third floor of the castle. There's so much here to explore. The grandparents are starting to get tired though. And it is already 5:30, so it's time to start rolling back to the hotel for dinner. I'm hoping I can negotiate with them to get one more stop in for one fortress. But we'll see. If not, well, I'm gonna have to come back and do another trip because one day is not enough to see all the things that are worth seeing in Öland. So if you ever come out here, give yourself a couple days in each place. Definitely. It's worth the history. Hey there, and welcome back. Pardon the background. I'm currently in my truck. I'm about to go run some quick errands on my day off. But I wanted to quickly film a closing, because the day that we were on Öland, I forgot to film a closing recap. Like I said in the last scene, the grandparents were starting to get tired, so I wasn't sure if we were going to do any more stops. We ended up not making it to any more stops. They were wiped, and they were hungry, so we ended up just going straight back to the hotel for dinner. And I guess I was way more exhausted than I thought I was. I ended up passing out and totally forgot to film a recap of that day. There's a lot. So this is me filming that closing / recap. Quick notes. Part of why we didn't get to go see some of the things that I wanted to go see were on the island. Pay attention as you're scoping out places to look. There's seasonal operations. For instance, the village, the Viking village ruins that I wanted us to go see, they were closed for the season. We were off tour season. I did that for a couple of reasons. One, to avoid crowds, to make it a little less stressful on the grandparents. And two, for better weather. I was kind of hoping we would hit the fall season and it wouldn't be too hot and we'd get to see some colors, which we do later on. Well, there are a few reasons. It was also cheaper too. So I'm glad that we went at the time that we went. However, it meant that we missed some things that were closed for their seasons. So when you're going there, do your research. Double check that the places you want to see will actually be open. Because yeah, it happens. And unfortunately, did not get any downtime to actually explore Kalmar itself, because the day before when we had gotten there, it was already evening time and I was already exhausted and didn't want to go wander around too much after dinner. Same with the grandparents. And by the time we got back from Öland the next day, we were wiped. There was no wandering Kalmar. So we didn't really get to go see much in Kalmar. And there's a castle there and other things to see. Again, I'm just going to have to go back and see more. Do more, see more. Just not enough time. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I hope you guys like Öland. I mispronounced the entire video. Sorry. To my Swedish viewers, I'm sorry. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I didn't learn that I was pronouncing it wrong until later in the trip. And I still struggle with some of the pronunciations. I'm still trying to learn Swedish. I'm trying, but now I'm back in the US and I have no one to speak to in Swedish. It was much easier to pick it up while I was there hearing it and reading it constantly. I email my cousins, so that's been nice. But that's not the same as hearing it and speaking it. But I digress. If you liked the video, hit the like button. And if you aren't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button and follow along for more adventures, because as always, there will be more, I promise. And stay tuned for the next one, because next week will be the next part of Sweden. And the next video also has some cool, I don't want to spoil it. I'm just going to put a little hint of, do you guys know what Stonehenge is? Yeah, Sweden has their own version. So stay tuned for that. And until next week in the next video, hope you guys have a good one. Later.